Welcome back to Legal Link with your host, Scott Newmark with Cohen and Newmark, personal injury attorney serving South Florida. I have a wonderful guest this evening, Ms. Diane Perry with Diane Perry, PA, and we're really excited to have her. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Our pleasure. Diane, why don't we get started, please, and tell our audience a little bit about your background and your legal specialties.
Well, my background is that I was originally from Pennsylvania. I'm the youngest of 7 children. I went to college in upstate New York and moved to Florida in approximately 1979. I started with a real estate license, and then I went to law school, and I became a lawyer here in the state of Florida in 1986. I specialize in the areas of family law and in real estate law.
Diane, let's start with family law if we could. Share with the audience a little bit about your family law practice, what's involved with family law. Give them a little update on that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My family law practice involves a plethora of things. We handle a dissolution of marriage. We handle child support issues. We handle parenting plans. We handle preparing prenuptial agreements. We also handle preparing postnuptial agreements. We represent husbands and wives. It's not gender specific. We represent them in modifications. We represent them in establishment of child support, defense of child support, establishment of alimony, and we try to help families through the process of getting a divorce in the state of Florida and having a full and informed decision on how to resolve these marital problems that they encounter in the divorce setting or in a marital dispute.
You know, Diane, when I was preparing for the segment and I was interviewing other people about, your interview today, one of the issues that comes up all the time is people want to get married, but they have substantial assets or even assets of their own, and they want to keep it heading into the marriage. What can people do with that type of an issue?
That's a very good question. That does commonly occur. And it occurs often in the setting of perhaps you have a woman and her fiance, and her family perhaps has a very large business that they want to maintain within the family. But say the woman, for example, is working in the business on a daily basis. Perhaps at some point in time she's going to receive some share of that, or personally at that point in time she does in fact have an interest in it. And she wants to earmark that as a non-marital asset. In order to do that, she would have what's called a prenuptial agreement prepared on her behalf. And interestingly, Scott, what often happens is when I get a call from someone in this regard, we have two individuals who are very happy with one another, and they want me to prepare an agreement for both of them. And unfortunately, I can't prepare it for both of them.
Right.
I need to prepare it only for one of them, and then the other individual needs to get their own counsel. But what's also very important, Scott, is they need to do this with sufficient time so that each party can have an opportunity to review the financial background of that person so that they can make an informed decision, so that they're not being forced into entering into a prenuptial agreement on the eve of a wedding. So my suggestion is they meet with an attorney, the other person obtains an attorney, retains an attorney, and then they commence with the drafting of such an agreement so that they can earmark that. Now, interestingly, too, they're not bound by that forever. They're bound by that contract, but they can move to modify it in the event that they both agree to modify that written document after their marriage.
That's interesting, and I'm glad you shared that with the audience. I don't think most people understand that. That's a very good point. Let me get back to some basics now. In the divorce situation, people are initially served with divorce papers. What do they do? What happens?
Well, when a husband or wife is served with divorce papers, sometimes it comes as a shock, sometimes it isn't as a shock. If they were unaware of that, they're served with divorce papers. The most important thing is they need to respond within 20 days. They need to do something, meet with an attorney, get legal advice. They need to compile their financial information so that they can be prepared. They need to, of course, read the document that they're served with.
Now, Diane, you said you had a real estate practice as well, and I want to turn our attention to that. Describe what you do in the real estate area.
Well, in the real estate area, I have a background in that and such that when I first moved to Florida, I did obtain my real estate license and worked as a realtor for Kai's company. So I come to it from a couple background areas. What I do for individuals who are clients of mine is I review their contracts and I help them go from the initial contract to the closing on the property. My firm issues title insurance to a terrific underwriter. It is Old Republic. My firm also assists parties in reviewing leases, whether it be residential or commercial. My office assists in preparing promissory notes,
Yes.
mortgages, documents and the like in connection with a real estate transaction.
Diane, if a person finds a piece of real property that they want to purchase and they want to have an attorney help them through this process, what do they initially have to do? What does the buyer do?
Well, assuming they've located what they believe is the property that's perfect for them,
Yes.
they need to obtain a contract. When I say obtain, they need to review a contract. Someone needs to present them with a contract. They don't generate it themselves. If they have a realtor, more than likely the realtor will be using what's called a standard deposit receipt contract. It may be geared toward a commercial property. It may be geared towards a residential piece of property. Under those circumstances, they should bring it to an attorney and have the attorney review it because there are many factors that come in at that point. They may be getting financing. They may want financing for 15 years. They may want financing for 30 years. They may have an interest rate cap that they want. Otherwise, they're not going to buy this property. Or they may want to make sure that, and they should make certain, they should get their inspections to make certain that the property meets what they are expecting it to be. In other words, does the roof leak? Are there liens on the property? Most importantly is the title insurance. They need to make certain that once they actually they purchase this property, that they get clear title to the property, that there are not any liens which would expose them to a loss of their investment in this property.
Is that what title insurance does? Because a lot of people are confused. What are they paying for with title insurance?
Well, title insurance is very important. Title insurance is a one-time charge when they close on a property, or perhaps they'll refinance later and then they utilize this prior policy for a reissue credit. But in fact, yes, it protects them from liens. Annie M. comes back later on, I had an interest in this property and I own the property, I never received my funds or monies towards it. Or in this area or this age of so many foreclosures, one needs to be careful and cautious that there's no unsatisfied liens on the property, whether it's for something that someone did, dumped tires, etc., that could attach to the property. So title insurance provides you with that security and knowledge that you have clear title, that something is not going to come back after you close on the property and impact your equity. And your lender will also require this. If you are purchasing a property and obtaining a mortgage, your lender will require title insurance as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Again, another important point. One thing I want to go back to on the divorce aspect in your family law practice, with the prenuptial agreements, what are the costs associated with that? Well, that's a practical question. People say, yes, I want to do this, but how much does something like that cost to do?
Well, under those circumstances, the cost is not based on the value of the estate or some percentage of something. It is based upon an hourly rate. And the attorney should be able to give an estimate of what it would cost given the financial information that needs to be shared between the parties and the agreement that is going to be drafted in connection with it. So it is based upon an hourly rate. The costs alone should not be that expensive in terms of cost for it, but it'll have an hourly rate.
Okay, thank you for sharing that with us. Diane, you have such an amazing practice, real estate, family law, divorce issues. How do the members of our audience find you? How do they get in contact with you? You've got such a potential for clients watching our show. Share that with them if you would.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate your having me come here today.
It's our pleasure.
And my location, I'm located on the corner of Commercial and Federal in the Coastal Tower building at 2400 East Commercial Boulevard, Suite 511. I can be contacted by phone, 954-351-2601, extension 2. Via email, Diane, D-I-A-N-E, at dperrylaw.com. Believe it or not, we still have fax machines. You can contact my office and get a fax number, but call us or set an appointment or contact us through our website of dperrylaw.com. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Such a pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me as well. Thank you.
Great.